Alright, welcome to the inside of Halle Berry. We have the urinary bladder. There should be a crap ton of what looks like fat, but is not actually fat, but all around here there should be greater omentum. We accidentally dissected that out, so that's that. Liver, which is very fun, it's everywhere. The diaphragm, right here, separating the abdominal and thoracic cavities. Thoracic cavity, abdominal cavity. Pretty straightforward. Okay. Once again, the greater omentum should be completely covering this area where the intestine, the stomach, all that stuff, that should all be covered by greater omentum. Okay. So, coming off the stomach here, and let's see here, the stomach, let me find here, okay, stomach's right here. So coming off stomach, so this is divided into two different areas. On the outside here we have the duodenum, on the inside is the pancreas. So the duodenum's the really solid part, the pancreas looks almost like you could just tear through it. We have back here, right there, this brown area that's kind of down that I'm running all over on. This is the caudate lobe of the liver. And then we have mesentery right here. More mesentery, mesoduodenum. Okay, so yeah. Duodenum, pancreas. There's a ligament associated with the urinary bladder called the median vesical ligament. It looks like it is, I think ours got cut away actually. I will say, Dr. Hendry, but there should be a ligament right there. So for orientation within the face of Halle Berry, this is the jugular vein. Don't need to know that for the face, but this is the jugular vein. And then right over here is going to be the mandibular gland. And then right here, this little thingy, that is the sublingual gland. Because they do go through. And then there's also a lymph node right here. So the sublingual gland and the lymph node look very, very similar here, but they're not. And then looking down here more, the parotid glands are going to be right here. Again, we have more mandibular glands. The mandibular glands are right underneath. Again, more parotid ducts right through there. And then sublingual gland continues to run just down and through. Pretty difficult to see, to be honest. Nothing. Okay. Back down into the stomach region. Right here is where the stomach curves. So the inside curvature into the duodenum is called the lesser curvature. The outside is the greater curvature of the stomach. Then we have the pyloric sphincter, which pyloric sphincter is right here. You can see where it narrows. If you feel it, it gets really, really hard. That's the pyloric sphincter, where the stomach transitions from stomach into duodenum. There's esophagus up in here, very difficult to see, but the esophagus is obviously running down and connecting with the stomach. Okay, and then with intestine, the initial portions of the small intestine are called the cecum. Those transition into the ileum and eventually end in the jejunum. before going into large colon for excretion. As you can see there, this little baby is the spleen, which is right next to the descending or large colon, descending colon, and then the ascending colon is back over in here. So it goes ascending, where it comes from small intestine, ascends, and then descends towards the rectum, which will be obviously down here. Okay, so as for our liver, you can see the gallbladder right here. It's stained the surrounding area green, but we've got gallbladder right here. Let's find the caudate lobe here. Okay, so the way this works, okay, right hand side, we've got the caudate lobe, which is actually two lobes. So we have the caudate, and then we have the lateral, right medial. We have the quadrate lobe, then we have left medial, and then left lateral. Or wait, actually this is caudate, part of caudate. Sorry, okay, we're gonna go from left to right here. We have caudate back here, caudate lobe, light really sucks. Okay, caudate lobe, left lateral, left medial, quadrate, right medial, right lateral, other part of the caudate. Alright. Okay. We are looking for the thyroid gland, which is not very easy to find, according to Dr. Hendry. It is theoretically right along in here. However, ours may not be visible just because these cats aren't always the healthiest, and so the thyroid usually suffers thanks to it. But the thyroid should be right about here. Moving up in order. And then obviously there's the trachea. You can tell because when you run your hand along it, it feels like plastic almost. It's very, very unique feeling. The heart is pretty obvious. As for the lobes of the lung, we have the left anterior, left medial, and then we have the large left posterior. And then over on the right, we have the right anterior, we have the right medial, and then we have the right posterior. We don't have to worry about 2 lobes or 3 lobes because unlike in humans, the heart mostly hangs down, and so the lungs both developed into 3 lobes. We have down here, we have a kidney, pretty distinct in shape. Leading from this kidney, so we have right here, we have the ureter, which leads down and eventually up into the urinary bladder. Within the kidney, we have the renal cortex, and then the renal medulla, and then we have the uterine horn. There's one on either side. So uterine horn, which leads down into this beginning part right here, which is the cervix. Up here is urinary bladder once more. Leading up from the uterine horn, you're eventually going to run into this, which is the ovary, which you can kind of see right there. It looks almost like a seed of some sort that got stuck in the uterine horn.
And what's holding up the ovary tract is the mesometrium.
Yep. And so ours kind of got cleared away, but you can see some of the remnants here that didn't get holes poked in it. And then over on the opposite side of the body, preserved very well, we have our round ligament, which is attached to this mesovarium and mesometrium. So mesovarium's up here, mesometrium is back here. To the most beautiful part of our dissection this year. So we'll start down at the heart. As you can see right here, we have coronary arteries and veins on the heart, leading out from the heart and into the lungs. A little bit difficult to see in our specimen just because everything's pretty rigid, but leading out through here, you can see one of the veins right there, will be the left pulmonary artery and vein. Leading up from that, this artery here is the left subclavian artery, and then next to the left subclavian we have the main brachiocephalic artery. Next to the brachiocephalic artery we have the anterior vena cava, and that is close to down here where the aorta is, which eventually branches into the subclavian and brachiocephalic arteries. And then we also have the pulmonary trunk right through there. As we come up the vena cava, you're going to get the left brachiocephalic vein and the right brachiocephalic vein. You're going to have the right common carotid artery, and then you'll have the same thing over here with the left common carotid artery. Over here and over here are the external jugular veins, and along with the branched subclavian veins. Come down here. Stuff around a little bit. Okay, so we have the kind of difficult to see, but right along through here we have the celiac artery, which eventually branches. You can see the dorsal aorta, which runs underneath it all. So we've got aorta over here, branches, we have the celiac, and then we also have the cranial mesenteric, which helps feed the mesentery, so you can tell because that kind of is pointing down into the mesentery here, whereas the celiac is eventually going to kind of lead up into the stomach region. Again, we have the posterior vena cava right next to the dorsal aorta, and then as we get down here we have the caudal mesenteric vein, or artery, sorry, caudal mesenteric artery right here feeding the caudal portions of the mesentery. Okay, so as you can see very clearly right here, running from the liver we have the hepatic portal vein, which eventually splits into two veins, but up in here is going to be the hepatic portal vein. And then again, just as a review, celiac artery, and then cranial mesenteric artery running off the dorsal aorta. Liver's up in this region. So we have, like I said, the hepatic portal vein is up in here, and then we have these branches down here which are more visible for us. One of these is going to be the gastroclenic vein. It's going to be this one here. And then the other one is just two intestinal veins, it looks like. So you have the hepatic portal way up in here. Can't see it very well on our specimen. And then you've got gastroclenic and intestinal veins. Or actually, mesenteric vein. No. No, mesenteric veins are down here. Okay. So we have renal artery, and renal veins right there. The cranial mesenteric vein is right here. It's going to flow underneath this fat. Halle Berry, for any of you who are not aware yet, Halle Berry was a very fat cat. See one of our adrenal glands right here, kind of just hanging out by one of the veins near the kidney. Vena cava, okay, ovarian. And then we have right here, you can see the red that leads into the ovary here. That is ovarian artery, and then there's some blue also, and that's the ovarian vein. And then leading down in here now into the leg, we again have the vena cava, the posterior vena cava, and the dorsal aorta. And then we also have the caudal mesenteric artery, which is kind of more up in this area, but it all kind of comes down and flows.
And